I'm with you one more time for another special version of Semaj MindSpa. Today we celebrate. We celebrate International Men's Day. And we have a very special theme: saving our boys and men, saving our families. If we don't do it, then who is going to do it? So please, you invite your friends and call some folks, share this link to we want to make sure we get this message out there because we have a responsibility to save ourselves. So I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to bring this information across so we can roll with it, and we should have a very useful activity. All right, sharing my screen now, and as you can see, the theme: saving our boys and men, saving our families. Now, this is important. My technical assistant suggested I put together a picture. She wanted to show a man, and I chose to be that man holding a baby, and that's one of my grandchildren. Adara is her name. Beautiful soul. Better relationships between men and women. That's what we're striving for. Why do I qualify myself to do this? I believe that my most important achievement as a human being, I partnered in the active parenting of 6 successful adults from childhood. My daughter has a law degree and she's now Supreme Court Justice in New York. My daughter, Masters of Science in Education and Spanish, a master teacher with a special focus, decolonizing education. My daughter, a PhD in literature, university lecturer, focusing on literature and popular culture. My son, BA in multimedia, an entrepreneur. My son, BSc Management and Marketing, an entrepreneur. And finally, my daughter, LLB, law degree. Someone commented on this lineup and said, it is very good that you did not try to clone yourself. You did not insist that someone be a psychologist. No, they all choose their own path to excellence. Now, what do we need as human beings? We have 2 basic needs: meaningful, rewarding work and sustained and reciprocated intimacy. Both of those. And we move developmentally to maximize both those. So the optimal development is when you are functioning fully as a human being in terms of work, functioning fully as a human being in terms of intimacy. The process, however, starts out quite basic. We start out as children. You're a boy or you're a girl from birth. With maturation, you become an adolescent. Boy become males, girls become female. The next step, adult, is not automatic. How do you go from male to man and female to woman? Work. If you're not working, if you're not sustaining yourself, you cannot call yourself an adult. That's just my way of seeing the world. Once you master work, then you become eligible for the next level of adult functioning: intimacy. Work before intimacy. You now can sustain yourself, so you can now share yourself. Once you can do both those, you are now eligible for the highest level of adult functioning. I do believe to be parenting, the single most important human activity. Now, we have some rough times ahead. When young people are denied access to the means of production, 2 different things happen. This girl leaves school with no marketable skills. What does she do? Use her reproductive capacity to compensate. We know how that comes out. Oftentimes, the result of that specialization is pregnancy, oftentimes unwanted, unsupported. But then the whole concept of baby mother, I have a problem with the concept of baby mother because she needs to be much more than that. But that's how the outcome when you focus purely on your reproductive capabilities. On the other side, this male leaves school with no marketable skill. He just kick ball all day. But there are only so many who can make the team. So what does he do for his default? Destructive means. The first, he becomes a parasite. And when parasites get stronger, they become predators. We were warned. A special issue of The Economist September 28, 1996 says that the biggest problem that the Western world will face is males, young, uneducated, unmarried, unemployed, unemployable. Most recently, Professor Scott Galloway said exactly the same thing. Hungry young men without role models or no prospects are the most dangerous people in the world. The world did not listen, and we're paying the price now. Look, men, aggression, and violence is an integral part of maleness. Almost every human society, men are the ones who were involved in wars, intergroup aggression, intragroup homicide, the nature of the beast. Wars are biosocial products of men to gain status, resource, and to protect the family. So men are the ones who mobilize themselves into armies of violent fans, criminal gangs, bands of thugs, coming out to the same base root. The result, men commit homicide on average 26 times more frequently than do women. That's the reality. However, men are also the victims of homicide, crimes committed, serial killers, familicide, 90%. So when we talk about gender-based violence, 90% of violence is directed at men and by men. There's a sociobiological programming that brings this about. In many animal species, including primates, males have the biological role being the guardians of the territory. Their role is to banish intruders and to protect the group from predators. These functions require that men exhibit a higher level of aggression than female. Now, what happens then? Men have inherited these skills from our evolutionary ancestors, gaining a higher status resource by protecting the family. So men who can do this obtain a competitive advantage in conquering women. Thus, their physical prowess is rewarded. Still today, women are attracted to powerful men, whether the power is exhibited in money, business, sports, politics, or even crime. The challenge for society: can we transmute this to socially useful option? I heard a study some time ago where some young men in this country had largely committed themselves to becoming suicide bombers because they understand that they would be able to get 72 virgins when they get to heaven. But this man, instead, he worked with them and explained to them, listen, as a successful businessman, you can get live women. A lot of the young men decided to no longer become suicide bombers. So we have to find a way to extend the male's focus on education and pro-social socialization. Channel this high competitive activity into things that are socially useful. Security forces, high-risk entertainment activities, Can we contain this behavior? If not, we have to find a way to punish it because it can become destructive. Where are we now? The socialization education of males towards pro-social, nurturing, and productive outcome is absolutely necessary. We need continuous education, job creation skills for men, for them to become employable, for them to become more family focused, for more men to become active fathers. If we don't, the default is parasites, predators, and violence producers. We're seeing that. Some time ago, we looked at the figures in Jamaica and we see the total cost of crime was over $12 billion, or about 3.7% of the country's GDP. If the economy was able to get a breather by reducing the homicide rate to about 5%, similar to what is in Costa Rica, you could actually increase the GDP, moving that figure upwards by reducing the crime rate. So we're talking about we have to promote active fathering. Active fathering is the best vaccination and antidote against the attraction to gangs. Why do I say this? One of the things happening in Jamaica, how we raise our boys and girls. A little girl is 5 or 6. Her mother gives her a basin and water and teaches her to wash her own underwear to take care of herself. Your son is 26 and many mothers are still washing their own underwear for them. We insist that girls become responsible at an early age. The dining table. Your son is 8. Your daughter is 9. You allow him to play outside much longer, but the daughter must come in and set the table so that the family can eat. The things that we do to encourage responsibility in girls, we have left the boys out of that to a large extent. On top of that, there's what I call a conspiracy against male. The process begins when one egg is released for the month by a woman. And this one egg will unite with one of millions of sperm produced by a man in the same month. So only the fittest of the fittest will survive. So that the bulk of the production of the male reproductive capacity is destroyed. One survive to mate with one egg. Between conception and birth, reproductive waste is largely male. We're talking about miscarriage and stillbirth and all of these things. It's largely male. This struggle continues straight through to death. The fragility of maleness. Mental health, men outstanding in terms of areas of depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and eating disorder. Even when these areas become identified and diagnosed, men are least likely to seek professional help. We just don't. Men are less likely than women to seek help for depression, for substance abuse. Why? Social norms mitigate that. No, men don't need help. Men are reluctant to talk. The symptoms are downplayed. Suicide. More women attempt suicide, but more men are successful. Suicide call for help. Men largely use a rope around the neck or a gun to the head. Women take pills, slit their wrists, but there's a longer time between the attempt and the possibility of dying, so they get the help required. There's a science that tells us that low levels of testosterone are associated with depression, stress, and mood swing. So you find that, yes, we know correlation is not causality, but something is happening there. Something is happening. There's been a serious devolution. Mother and father and extended family was how we evolved. Then mother and father became the dominant. But then we talk about my mother who fathered me. A misnomer, but largely female headed household. No, mothers have exited. Who's raising the child? Why I say that my mother who fathered me is a misnomer, go back and look at that book. In that study, children with both parents were 58%, a mother and a stepfather, 13%, a father and stepmother, 4%, only 19% with a mother only. So that we wish we could have something like this today. We never had that large problem as implied in the title of the book. What makes it worse? In places like Jamaica, there's a significant gender bias in education. There are more high school places for girls than for boys. So naturally, more girls will quote unquote pass to get into high school. The problem is clear. Boys are often put to sit at the back of the class, while the teacher, who is largely female, pays more attention to the girls. Jamaica has only 7 all-boy high schools, but there are 14 all-girl high schools. However, the average boys' school is smaller than the average girls' school. The co-ed schools have largely 60% and higher in terms of the girl ratio. So naturally, more girls will get access to secondary education. There's an exam, largely around 11, 12. At one point, it was called Common Entrance. Then it's called GSAT. Now it's called PEP. But at this stage, girls are ahead of boys, easily by 2, sometimes up to 3 years. So that there is a significant advantage in terms of girls getting into better schools and for higher education. Figures globally tell us another story. For every 100 girls who are suspended, 250 boys are. Every 100 girls expelled, 335 boys are. Every 100 girls in special ed, 217 boys are. For every 100 girls with learning disability, 276 boys are. For every 100 girls with an emotional disturbance diagnosed, 324 boys are. For every 100 girls diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, 400 boys are. We have some serious male problems. The results at primary and secondary school, girls are outperforming boys worldwide. Boys are more likely to be held back to drop out while girls stay in school longer and get the benefit of the education. Females have vaulted the university gap. 70% and more of university graduates are now female. We're seeing even the American situation now. 6 women for every 4 men across the board. It's the largest female-male gender gap in the history of higher education in the United States, and it's getting wider. That is where things are now. Over 60% of BA degrees are going to women now. Significant shifts over the last 20, 30 years. It's moving closer to 70% in many tertiary institutions. But administrators are getting nervous because girls want to go to schools where they're boys. Because look, that is the last chance to find a partner. Is this by accident? Not in the Jamaican context. In Jamaica, the educational policies after slavery were designed to protect plantation labor supply. So places like Trelawney and St. Thomas and Clarendon, where sugar was king, and St. Mary was banana was king. No high school admitted boys until relatively recently, because the boys, if that was the case, if too many boys went to high school, who would cut the cane and weed the banana? It is not so much that the system favored girls, but it disadvantaged boys. Now, even when the church intervened, in Jamaica, the Roman Catholic Church built one high school for boys. But at the same time, they built 5 high schools for girls. None of the single-sex schools in Jamaica were established by the government. But we're seeing a very interesting phenomenon. Boys and the girls, the same age, put in the same classes, the girls usually do much better because they start off with a bias, with an advantage over the boys. And many times, the boys never catch up. Some believe that for the best results, we should actually have single-sex schools so each gender can progress at their own optimal pace. Globally, we're seeing some serious gender gaps. Men smoke more cigarette, more lung cancer. Drink more liquor, more cirrhosis of the liver. Men take more drugs, die from drug overdose more. Men have a higher death rate for all the 15 leading causes of death, from accidents to AIDS. Eat more unhealthy food, die more of cardiovascular disease. And expose themselves to more on-the-job disability. 94% of all on-the-job fatalities are men. Drive faster, more reckless, kill more people, killed more often on the road, men. Possess more firearm, more deadly weapons, kill themselves, kill other people more often, men. More stress and tension because of the competitive personality, men. Now, family life was naturally impacted by this. A lot of women are complaining about the shortage of eligible, marriageable men. And they're right. There are more men at the bottom of the economic ladder than the women, and more men involved in crime, and more men, large numbers of men, locked up in prisons. So that's why we're doing this now. International Men's Day, can we pay attention to this? How do we get better relationships between men and women? This picture here was taken at the annual meeting of single, straight, emotionally stable, financially secure, intelligent men looking for long-term commitment. You see what I see? Empty. Empty. Category of men ready and available for long-term commitment is significantly missing. Now, they say that teenagers have girlfriend. That's my view. But this thing we call baby mother is the result of contraceptive failure. Big man make commitment and have wife. We're seeing a serious devolution taking place. What do women want from men? Husbands? Life partner? Absolutely. Father for their children? I do believe so. Sex partner? Of course. Friend? I think all of the above. But then what do men want from women? They want the same things? Partner? Mother for your children? Sex partner? Friend? I do believe we're seeing some of the similar issues. But what is happening in terms of the reality? It is said, that there are 4 categories, 4 roles that women play in the lives of men. There's one we call one and move. That can explain itself. Then there's one that's called consort. This person, a consort, is a companion for times of fun. But then there's a technical term, concubine. It's a purely sexual, long-term sexual relation. But then there's a 4th one called wife, which is a managerial post. It is said that, you cannot make a woman into anything other than she wants to be. So how do men move through these 3 roles? How many stop at just the first role and never make it to the highest level? There are many models that have evolved in the Jamaican society. So we have visiting unions, baby mother and baby father, common law unions, matey, side chick, boops. Monogamy still exists. Wife and sweetheart. Then, of course, there's the multiple relationships of various forms that still exist. How do we get through all of this? How do we get to a point where we can have better relationships between men and women? It is suggested, why don't we just tell the truth? Why not? Why not be honest with each other? Deal the cards face up. Say what you are, say what you want. Negotiate. Honor your commitment, both sides, and ultimately keep your word. Is this asking too much for men? Is this asking too much for women? My belief is that a gentleman does not promise, he commits. We need more commitment if we are to save our families. We also need clarity. Be very clear on what you want. Don't settle for less than you deserve. Years ago, I developed what I call the law of parenting. It begins and says, when a child is born, once you're so privileged as to get a child, you have been entrusted by the universe to be one of the vehicles through which the miracle of creation continues. Your minimum responsibilities for the food, protection, clothing, shelter, education, and positive socialization of that child for at least the next 18 years, irrespective of breakup, separation, divorce, or even death. Are you ready for that? Part 2 says parenting is the highest, most important human activity. The male urge to procreate is stronger than desire to parent. So for this very reason, parenting in human male is a learned social behavior. So what do? Women need to raise the bar and initiate serious discussion before allowing men access to their wombs. Are we willing to do this? Part 3 of the law says society needs to display and reinforce pro-social behavior for family life, especially male parenting. Socializing the next generation is one of the most important human activity, and we have to give it what it deserves. When parenting, especially fathering, fails, the overwhelming burden falls on teachers and the school system. They are called to pick up the slack. Part 4 says, when the school system fails, the final step then becomes the criminal justice system. When universal laws are violated, punishment is not always swift, but it is certain. Sometimes the entire community and even the nation is punished. Are we there yet? Is that what is happening in places like Jamaica and so many other societies? I do believe that rights cannot be wrong. Do you believe a man has a right to know who his children are? Do you believe that children have a right to know who their father is? Are we willing to put things in place to ensure that these rights are upheld? I, for one, believe that there's a significant role between, human behavior and governance, and that any activity that occurs in the public sphere, it is not regulated, it will have to be subsidized. So if we're not figuring out how to do it, it is the role of government to make sure that it is done. Men, do you know that you may want a partner who is eye candy, but what you really need is a partner who is soul food? Are you willing to move in that direction? Are you willing to do this? I do believe it's time to man up. Steve Harvey says that a woman can't change a man because she loves him. A man changes himself because he loves her. It is doable. Malcolm X says, be a man. Earn what you need for your own family, then your family will respect you. They are proud to say, that's my father. She's proud to say, that's my husband. Father means you're taking care of your children. Husband means you're taking care of your wife. You are accepting the responsibility of manhood. Thus said Malcolm X. We find a similar thing, among the Native American Cherokee. A woman's highest calling is to lead a man to his soul so as to unite him with the source. Her lowest calling is to seduce, separating man from his soul and leaving him aimlessly wandering. A man's highest calling is to protect woman so she's free to walk the earth unharmed. Man's lowest calling is to ambush and force his way into the life of a woman. What if we listened? What if we listened? So I do believe that good men do exist. There's something we call toxic masculinity. 3 behaviors or beliefs behind the phenomenon. 1, the suppressing the emotions. Suppressing emotions. Maintaining the appearance of hardness and toughness. Seeing violence as an indication of power. We can do better than that. What's a good man looks like? He will love you just the way you are. He will accept your kids as if they were his own. He will be sensitive to your needs. He will spend time with you. He will pray with you and also pray for you. He will make sure your home is safe. He will help you financially. He will not lie or cheat on you. He will appreciate your intelligence. He will be proud of your accomplishments. He will encourage you. He will build you up and not tear you down. He will never disrespect you. He will appreciate your care and love. I do believe that good men exist. But then Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man is or should be. You just be one. You just be one. Do we need men's studies? I do believe we desperately need to see the establishment of men's studies. We have lost our way. We need to devise ways to socialize boys to become pro-social and productive men. We have lost our way. Our lives depend on this. So that's why we're talking about saving our boys and men, saving our families on this International Men's Day. We have to. If we don't, we are in serious trouble. So this is why I believe that it was absolutely necessary to have this discourse and set the agenda so that we can continue this discussion. And I do believe that not just today, but we start this discussion today. Can we continue it on? Can we continue going forward? I'll make sure I post this on all the platforms so that we can discuss it, we can talk about it, and I'd love to see your comments. What can we do better? What did I leave out? What else is necessary? Because if we don't save our boys and our men, they will destroy us. If we don't save our boys and our men, we can't save our families. And without that, that's the end. So I do believe that we can do it. And I will do everything in my part to make sure it happens. Can I count on you too to do your piece? We need it. Thank you very much for sharing, and please share with others so we can get this conversation started and we can continue this discussion and we can save ourselves. I see some very interesting comments here. We need to be some of this kind of on the curriculum and development of the boys and men. Thank you, Mas. We need more positive rites of passage. Absolutely. All of my children, I keep naming ceremonies for them. And the boys, I keep a coming of age ceremony. We have to get back to the foundation and to build on the things that will take us to where we need to get. Let's continue this discussion.